Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon. This is Priyanka and you are in a Conclave 2024 4.0 series. I know you guys are very excited and today's topic is Victoria State and Regional Nomination Program and recent updates. So now we have a register migration agent, Mr. Kunal Verma. I'll give you a little introduction about Mr. Kunal Verma. With passion for immigration law and commitment to client success, Kunal Verma has been a valued member of the Aussies Group since 2016.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'll straight away jump to the point, and I am sure a very good afternoon, firstly, to everyone, and good morning to people who are in other states wherein it's still morning. I'm sure this is going to be a great and exciting session, and we will have a lot of people really having a lot of questions just so that Victoria of the most promising states when it comes to nomination. A lot of people, when it comes to they plan to do study in Australia, they consider to study in Victoria, Melbourne being one of the best places to live. So a lot of people have expectations from the state, and they have been delivering. The state has been delivering as well with inviting and nominating applicants over the last so many years. Now, through this session, I will be covering a few slides. Have your questions, hold on to yourself and you can start posting the questions so that once we are finished with the slides, we can get on to take up those questions. And I would be willing to answer each and every question which you have in your mind. A lot is going on in the industry these days. I'm sure the anxiousness which every one of you are going through the same, and hopefully we can pass this turmoil and can eventually to reach to your migration destination or whatever your goals are out of your migration journey. So to start off, we will talk about how the program basically works in Victoria. What is the state nomination program? What are its requirements? How you can successfully put an application? What you can do to improve your chances? This is a PPT which we have made based on our understanding of the program, as well as the analysis of the invitations we have received over the past you know 2 financial years. So you will have a lot of insights which you might not be aware of. So stick on to the session till the end to basically get answers to all your questions and know how you can improvise the chances, as I said, of getting an invite in Victoria in the coming financial year if you haven't been able to get an invite. The nomination program works on the requirements since it's a part of skilled migration. So pretty much there are a couple of stages which are required. One has to pass through in order to enable to secure an invite. Now, to be considered for Victorian state nomination, there is a specific requirement to submit a registration of interest. That's called ROI. If you would know what this is, for those who are not aware. Now, this is a separate application which you are submitting to a state. So the applicants who are living in Victoria and overseas can submit a ROI after reading their eligibility requirements, whether they are looking to apply for subclass 190, which is the state nomination, or 491, which is the skilled work regional provisional visa. Now, if you have read through the lines or between the for Victoria, whether it is 190 or subclass 491. Now, the registration of interest process, the information you would provide in your skill select EOI. Now, as I mentioned before, this is an application towards skilled migration. So expression of interest forms the most important part to it. Subsequently, you are required to submit the same information that is corresponding to your EOI as a part of your registration of interest. So the information that you will provide as a part of your skill select will be used for the assessment of your application of registration of interest. What it means is that they will not be asking all the questions that's in the EOI, but they have got some specific questions which are required for the state in the registration of interest to consider your application and put it through the next stage. That would be securing a pre-invite. So what it requires is that anytime if there is a change in circumstance for you, you need to make sure that your expression of interest that you submit with the Department of Home Affairs stays updated so that the information across the two platforms does not mismatch and it doesn't lead to anything adverse of an outcome which you do not expect. Now, well, pretty much just put it this way. The ROI selection. So when selecting ROIs, the state consider following factors according to the information that you expression of interest and ROI. So that's what we have been talking about. They will look at your age. Obviously, that's one of the prerequisites of submitting the skill migration expression of interest. The English language proficiency that you have, the years of experience that you have in your nominated occupation that has been claimed in the expression of interest, the education and occupation skill level. So what level of study that you have done, whether it's a bachelor's, a master's, a research, a PhD, your partner skills, if you do have a partner and if there are skills the partner does have, and what is the salary that you have. So that is applicable only for onshore applications, wherein they would seek that you are earning in order to secure a pre-invite from the state. Now, the occupations in certain, industries or sectors are being prioritized as well when you get to apply for your ROI. So now when we talk about that, there are certain occupations which have been always in higher demand. The demand of occupations basically varies from state to state. Not that every state would focus on all the occupations which are in high demand. So every state decides based on their skills demand, based on the shortage of skills they have in their state, and they accordingly come out with occupations which they really want to fulfill and want people to work in those skills. So occupations which Victoria looks at is obviously health, one of the key sectors I would say in most of the states in Australia. Social services, likely when you're offering, social services, which would include occupations such as a social worker, a community worker, and the other occupations like a youth worker. So there are several occupations which also forms a part of social services. Information and communication technology, IT, obviously, a lot of people come here to study these courses. Early childhood, primary, secondary, and special education teachers. So while the focus does not only stay on early childhood teaching, the state basically focus on all these, teaching requirements, which would be across primary, secondary, and special education teachers as well. Manufacturing. So again, manufacturing is one of the sectors which the state focuses on. Infrastructure, anything wherein you are basically a part of civil or infrastructure will also be given a priority. Renewable energy, and then the hospitality and tourism, that is only applicable for subclass 491. So what it means is the ones who are looking to apply for a EOI, ROI for the state nomination, they should focus on 491 applications if their occupations come across hospitality sector, such as a restaurant manager, a hotel manager, chef, or a cook. The occupations are most likely going to be picked up for 491. The annual earnings estimation. Now, when you're completing your registration of interest, that's the application for the state. Mind you, this is not expression of interest, which is submitted with the Department of Home Affairs. This is registration of interest that is submitted separately as an application to the state. You may be asked to provide an estimate of your annual income. So annual income that you're making in the state as an onshore applicant does make a lot of difference for your application to get picked up. Your annual earnings are one of the many factors, as I said, used to select your ROI for invitation. There is no minimum earning required to be eligible. However, they distinguish between the market salary for the same occupation, and accordingly, they may consider giving you an invite if you're earning over and above your salary threshold. Victoria Skill Nomination Visa Subclass 190. Now we will get on to the planning, understanding of the specific requirements which is there for the subclass 190 and we'll move on to the other subclass which is 491 as well, and the requirements for it after this. So who can apply for subclass 190? To be eligible to apply for Victorian skill nominated subclass 190, below are the requirements. You must be committed to living in Victoria. I often come across this question from clients: what if I get nominated from Victoria and I would like to move to another state? There is a moral obligation which you need to fulfill, that if you get nominated from a certain state, you would need to stay there for at least 2 years. When you say it's a moral obligation, the idea behind that is you do not, I mean, it's not a part of the condition, but you obviously are committing the state that you're putting an application to them only because you want to live in the state. You have your registration of interest selected. You must be under 45. This is the age for the skill migration application, that you must be under 45 years of age. You have a valid skill assessment in an occupation that's on the skilled occupation list. So yes, if your occupation is on the medium to long-term skills strategic list, if it's on the short-term skills occupation list, you could possibly look at an invite for a subclass 190, in the Victoria state. You have got 65 points on your Department of Home Affairs expression of interest, that is called EOI, in Skill Select. The supporting information, this is again, as I said, you will come across a lot of information through this presentation, which you might not have been aware of, and which would benefit you to have secure an invite in the coming year if the program for Victoria State remains the same. So if you're living in Victoria and claiming annual earning in your registration of interest, you must support your claims of earning with the documentation in your application. So you'll be required to provide 4 documents, and the first one out of that is your current employment contract. So the state would ask if they would select your ROI while submitting the nomination. They will ask you to provide an employment contract. They want you to submit your recent 4 weeks of payslips. You need to provide an extract of your superannuation that you get paid from your employer for the job that you have claimed the income from. And that should show the recent contribution from the employer, and your position description that describes the job duties that you have been doing as a part of your role. Are an independent contractor. Now, this is very important for a lot of people who work independently. They don't work on TFN, but ABN. So if you're working as an independent contractor, you will be required to provide the tax invoices, the relevant contracts that you have got while working for a business in Victoria, or any service agreement, your most recent notice of assessment showing the income that you have made out of the contract or the business, and the tax return. The important part to know here is that your tax return should also specify your job title or your occupation as the same that you're. So during our assessment for your nominated application, we may require additional employment documents. Usually ask for information if the above documents do not provide them clear information about your income, your job duties, the income that you're getting from the employments. So all that does play a role. So any earnings, now this is very, very important for a lot of people to know. Any earnings you are claiming must be from skilled employment in Victoria. Skilled employment includes any role that is at skill level 1, 2, or 3 in the relevant ANSCO. Now, I am going to give you an example here. Let's say you are having a skill assessment of a mechanical engineer. However, you do not have a job as a mechanical engineer in Australia. Subsequently, you tried looking for jobs, made enough effort, and you found a job as a chef or a cook, or you basically found a job as a mechanical engineering technician. Now, if the job role which you are doing, or the job that you're doing in Victoria, is based on skill level 1, 2, or 3, you can still apply for 190 application based on that skill job, irrespective of the fact that is not in your nominated occupation in which you have a skill assessment. Now, very, very important, as this is a distinguishing factor for Victoria compared to all other states, because most of the states do not nominate you they're only going to nominate you if you are working in your nominated occupation in which you have a skill. It's very, very important for applicants to understand a state which does nominate applicant for working in a skill, not which is your skill assessment, does still give you an option to get a nomination from Victoria. Let's move on. So what do you need? What you would need to put an application? Provide the following documents to show you meet the requirements. The passport, obviously the identification document, your English language test results, your skill assessment. So if you indicate in your registration of interest that you're currently working in Victoria, I believe I've already covered this part before, you will need to provide your employment contract that you've got from the employer, the pay slips for the most recent 4 weeks, superannuation document from ITO portal, or you can get from the super provider, and the position description covering the job duties. Now, there are further eligible. Your nominated occupation must be on the eligible skilled occupation list for this visa. So you have to have, when you're putting a 190 application, you need to make sure that your nominated occupation is on the eligible skills list. So you can't really put an expression of interest unless you become eligible for it. Again, but the state would want you to be mindful of that. So your nominated occupation in the skill assessment must match your expression of interest. Now, let's say a lot of times we come across, we have got a nominated occupation, we've got several assessments, we don't know what to use. So they want to make sure that whatever you are filling in as the information should match. And the occupation which you have selected, it is correctly selected in the expression of interest. When you say we require that your skill assessment. Now, again, very, very important, because a lot of times we overlook this point, as if the eligibility requirements do need you to have a skill assessment that should be valid for at least 12 weeks when you are applying or when they would nominate you. So what happens is the 12 weeks period is sought because the state does need that much time to approve or take a decision on your application. That's why when it is submitted, it should at least have 12 weeks validity. So if you do not have your assessment valid for 12 weeks, I would recommend you to apply for your new assessment as soon as possible. So really get any nomination refusals only on the fact that your assessment is expiring within 12 weeks. So they've clearly said we cannot nominate you if your skill assessment has expired. So if you're submitting any expired skill assessment, they may not nominate you. English language. Again, the minimum requirement of English language is competent, but I'm sure a lot of people have understood so far the competent English does not get them invites. So obviously, proficient, superior is the aim all of you really need to keep, just so that you can have a higher chance of securing an invite in the Victorian state. Again, with English, the requirements for validity is the same, that you are required to have 12 weeks validity remaining on your English language scores when you're submitting the ROI, or when the state is sending you a pre-invite. Again, you need to work towards getting the higher scores. And as I said, these requirements are at the time when you're submitting the ROI. So if your English scores are about to expire, I recommend to write the English exam as soon as possible. Again, they mentioned that we need enough time to assess your nomination application. And if it's an expired English score, they will not nominate you. Moving on to the next subclass, Victoria Skilled Work Regional Visa Subclass 491. Now, who can apply for a 491? You again need to be committed. As I said, the state does not nominate any interstate applicants. The ones who are in Victoria or overseas are the ones who can apply. Now, you must be committed to living in regional Victoria. So while the state is going to nominate you for a 491, they want you to ensure that you are committing yourself to live in the regional part of Victoria, not the metro. You've had your registration of interest selected. Under 45 years of age, you must have competent English, that's 6 each, have a valid skill assessment in an occupation on the eligible skill occupation list for the visa. So your occupation can be on the medium to long-term skills strategic list. Your occupation can be on the short-term skills, and it can be either on the regional occupation list to get in and right for a 491 subclass. If you are onshore, you must be living in Victoria at the time of nomination. Please note that if you're living onshore and living in Melbourne, you may need to relocate to designated regional area of Victoria after you are nominated. Again, now I would say that this has been generic information, because for the specific requirements of 491, do not nominate for applicants who are even living in metro, but eventually the only ones who are living in the regional of Victoria does get the pre-invite. Why? Because the application, when you submit for the ROI, you are required to provide evidence of living in the regional areas. So I will skip the part stating that this is not something which, yes, it's a requirement from the immigration side as well, that once your 491 visa would be granted, you would be required, or you must live in a specified regional area for at least 3 years when you're making an application for the permanent visa, which is subclass 191. And until that application is finalized, you may continue to live in regional to ensure that your application gets through. And after that, you can move to metro or any other part of Australia if you would like to. Now, the onshore applicants, you must be currently living and working in regional Victoria. This financial year, we haven't seen any invites for applicants who were living outside of regional. So you were required to live in the regional part of Victoria itself and working as well as in regional Victoria to get successfully get a pre-invite from the state of Victoria. Using in your registration of interest from your skilled employment in regional Victoria. So yes, so whatever work that you're doing in the regional part of Victoria, you can only claim income of that to put in your registration of interest. If you're not working or working in a non-skilled employment level 1, 2, or 3, you're not eligible to apply. Again, if your job is in regional, but it's not a skilled level 1, 2, or 3 job, you cannot put an application for 4. For offshore applicants, you must be committed to live in regional Victoria. You are required to live in regional Victoria itself when you basically get the nomination of the visa grant. You'll need to have a valid skill assessment and meet the requirements listed, as if you need to fulfill the requirements of staying in regional, working in any skill that's in regional once your 499 visa is finalized. Okay. So we're currently prioritizing offshore candidates for 491 with skill in healthcare. So the state lately have, again, with the lesser number of seats, I haven't seen a lot of invitations for 491 either. But the ones who pretty much would have got invitations for 491 from Victoria across this financial year, but I mean only applicants who were from healthcare, social services, or education sector. Again, living in regional Victoria, onshore applicants must be living in regional Victoria at the time of nomination. So it is for the ones who are living onshore that they must be living in regional. Again, they have specified because a lot of people actually regionally parts of Victoria, or what are the regional areas. You have a link. If you Google the link and find out regional Victoria's regional areas for the subclass 491, then you would get a list from the Department of Home Affairs which specify the postcodes. So that will give you an understanding what are actual regional areas. So Geelong and parts of Outer Melbourne, example, Mornington, Pakenham are designated regional areas of Victoria. The conditions of the visa may require you and secondary visa holders to live, work, and study in a designated area, designated regional area of Victoria as a requirement of the visa. So once you get nominated, you'll apply for the visa. You'll wait for once it's been finalized, then you'll have to meet all the visa requirements. Again, that would require you to live and work, study in regional area. You are required to show evidence of a lease that you have staying in region. Now, this is for the nomination. So if you have received a pre-invite, you would be required to show that you have a lease in the regional area, either a bond receipt in place of a lease agreement. You can provide documents with your utilities as of gas and statements that you have, the driving license, or any evidence to prove that you have been living in the regional area, which is a part of the application for nomination. Again, further assessment can be asked if the documentation you have provided are not clear. That comes with some specific timelines. So it is best to apply with complete documentation to avoid any delays with the application. If you're living in a border community, you may be eligible if you clearly demonstrate that you either live or work in regional. Now, there are border regional areas in which, you might pretty much work, which basically forms a part of and Victoria itself, and then you're working in Victoria. So you need to provide proper evidences to support your application to ensure that you could either be living or working in Victoria for them to basically nominate you. Again, I think this has already been covered. The key skills that have been focused by Victoria during 2023-24. Health, for those people who have joined in later, I'll just recap it. The following occupation groups have been considered for invitations in the last. The invitation have started for this financial year. Health, social services, information and communication technology, early childhood and secondary education, advanced manufacturing, infrastructure, renewable energy, hospitality and tourism, only for subclass 491. Now, again, a lot of people make mistakes when they claim their income in the ROI. We have seen a few clients getting refusals as well. So you would need to make sure that the income that you are claiming as a part of your ROI is correctly estimated using the guide that have been provided. So I'll cover on that what exactly forms a part of the income that you can include, what income you cannot include. So estimated annual earnings includes your wages, the salary that you're getting, payments while you're on leave. So if you get payments for your annual leave, for any other leaves that forms a part of your employment contract, you get that can be included. The penalties that you basically get for your work over the weekend or on public holidays or work outside your regular hours. Commissions only accepted for sales role. So if you're a sales role and you get commissions, then you can include that as a part of your annual earning income as well, which you fulfill in the ROI. Amounts that are salary sacrifice, such as novated lease for a car or a meals and entertainment arrangement. So again, any amount that you get paid as a part which shows as a salary sacrifice. Now, be mindful of anything that you claim would need to be clearly indicated as a part of your employment so that the department is or the state, when they're assessing the application, they have clarity of what information you are providing and the relevant supporting document is there. Excuse me. Estimated annual earning excludes what you cannot income in the ROI. The super, a lot of employers do, set the package, the annual package inclusive of the superannuation. So you need to make that when you're putting the income in the ROI, you can't include the superannuation because that's separate to what money gets in your account. Earning from unskilled employment, such as administrative roles, retail roles, machine operators, drivers, laborers, cleaners. Now, any income which you are claiming, which is not a part of your skilled work, is not going to be counted. Allowances such as for me, is clearly mentioned on your pay slips. You can't include that as a part of your income. Bonuses such as sign-up bonus or lump sum performance bonus for non-sales roles, so they don't accept even to you by the end of the year. You basically come from a non-sales role. Incentive payment, so incentives are not being counted. Scholarships, reimbursements, it's government benefits or payments, investment return, which you basically get. Let's say if you've made some investment and you've got some return, gifts, tips, or gratuities. So you can't include any of this as a part of your income when you're putting through the application or putting your income in the ROI. Right. The considerations, again, as I said, this is a little more about the income. Kids end up making mistakes in their ROIs for the income itself. If you have an annual salary or base salary, please use this figure. This figure should be pre-tax and exclude mandatory superannuation. That's what I not be included. So if your contract does specify the annual salary or the base salary, you can use that to fill in the ROI. If your earnings are on part-time basis, very, very important for applicants who only have part-time work rights on the visa. If your earnings are on part-time basis, note that the calculator will adjust them to reflect a full-time equivalent. Please use the adjusted figure provided by the calculator. A lot of applicants, because when they try and submit the application, they believe the contract does specify part-time, but you need to use the calculator with the Live in Melbourne website, which clearly would give you the income that you need to fill as a part of your ROI, basically to submit the correct information for your income in the ROI. If your earnings are casual, note that the calculator will adjust to take account of casual loading. So again, with casual, it's going to be never the fixed hours that you get paid for. So the best way of getting an answer is using the calculator to calculate your income if you're working casually. At the time of assessment of your nominated application, you'll be required to demonstrate your estimated annual income using the last 4 weeks of earnings. Very, very important. Again, if you cannot support the figure provided in the ROI, your nomination application may be refused. If you are overclaiming the income because you decided to put a value which on your own or doing some calculations on your own, which is different to what is coming out of the calculator, or something which cannot be proved with the documents that you have provided, such as an employment contract or the payslips, they will refuse the application. If we assess that your employment is nomination, application may be refused. So if you're claiming for a job that is unskilled or at the skill level 4 or 5, your nomination application may be refused. One job only include your estimated income for the highest paying job. So you can't combine two incomes to provide it to them and in the higher paying job for your nomination. You can only include earnings from the skilled employment in regional Victoria for subclass 491. So yes, if you are working, you're living in regional Victoria, you're working there as well, but you're also combine your income of metro and regional. You can only combine income. You can only put income for the job that you're doing in regional area, and that too for the highest income job which you're in regional doing in regional. Skilled employment includes any role that is at skill level 1, 2, or 3 in the relevant ANSCO classification. So the skill employment has to be at the skill. Now, skill levels can be found on the website itself when you're trying to figure out whether the work you're doing is at the skill level or not. That will give you an answer. Now, skill employment does not have to be in your nominated occupation, but your earnings must be from skilled employment. So again, any other skill than the one you have your assessment in the ROI. They have given an example. If you are a mechanical engineer, that's an NSCO level 1, you cannot include earnings for your work as a truck driver, which is at ANSCO skill level 4, but you can include the earnings if you're working as which is a skill level 2. Again, the difference is if it is skill level 1, 2, or 3, your nominal occupation, that's the best thing. If you are not, you can still claim it as far as you know that your job is at skill level 2 or 3, despite of the fact that's not relevant to your occupation, but it is a skill employment. Now, we have realized the importance of securing an invite for lesser points. We have found out that what are the key attributes that have played a role for our applicants, for the applications that we have been submitting over this financial year. And this is based on not this analysis is not based on one invitation round, but the several invitation rounds the Victoria State has conducted. So if you would, what could increase your chances for securing an invite in Victoria, this is an important slide for you because you have been waiting to get an invite for so long. You might be missing out on these parameters or the attributes. That is where it is not happening for you, that you did not get an invite so far. Now, other than your occupation must be in high demand, because we've talked about the sectors the state is nominating, and you have got higher points in skill select, because what happens is the one of the key differentiate any occupation is that they are having higher points. Obviously, the attributes we're going to talk about are the basis or if you have higher points itself. So based on our assessment, below are the key attributes for securing invites for both subclass 190 and 491 in the current financial year. Now, if your salary in skilled employment is higher, so higher the salary, higher the chances of you to get an invite in 1, 2, or 3. Example, I am working as a software engineer in Victoria. My salary is $140,000 per annum. And my friend who basically is working at, definitely they will pick the applicant who is working at 140 just because their income is above the first threshold. And more importantly, when they look at software engineers, they also know that most of the software engineers who work on temporary visas, what is the maximum salary they can get? So obviously, if your salary is over and above the other peers who work in the same sector with the temporary visas, they will give you the invite if your salary is higher. If you are married, your partner, if is skilled and they have got the competent English with 6 each, higher chance of success, just because we have seen that a lot of applicants who were single and the applicants who were married with skilled partner with the same point score have given the advantage of securing an invite in Victoria. So this has happened for 9-1. That is where, so if you have a partner and you haven't done this, it is best for you to get on it to have that sorted right away, so that your chances of getting an invite, even though with lower points, would be higher. So we have seen a 491 invite given to an applicant with 70 points itself when they had a skill partner, vis-a-vis a single applicant for the same occupation did not secure an invite. And the same has worked out for applicants for 190 as well. So you may have lower points because your English is not superior, but if you have a skill partner, that may still give you an edge, or that will still work out it, and you may get an invitation for your nominated occupation. The superior English scores, again, it does require you to communicate with clients, have a good control of language. Having superior English is very, very important. Now, obviously we are in an English-speaking country. The most important requirement is of being able to speak the language, read the language, write the language, and higher the scores, higher the points we have in the UI, that put us at an advantage of securing invite. Skilled experience points claimed in the UI. Now, I am working in my nominated occupation and I've been working for 3 years, 5 years, 1 year. If you are claiming points of skilled employment, you may have a higher chance again for getting an invitation. Now, depending on what your occupation, and if that occupation is obviously on one of the demanded occupations, all these parameters really can play a role in securing your invite. Now, I am meeting all 4 attributes. Obviously, that's the best case scenario. I am meeting 3 out of 4 to eventually put you in the next, ladder step down for getting an invite. But yes, if you really are able to secure all of this, I would say there is a lot base which could possibly work in your favor. And I would strongly recommend that is an option which you could consider for your application. A lot of people really have these questions, so I'm not covering it as a part of the slide itself. Other Australian state, can I apply for Victorian Skilled Visa nomination? I get this questions every day from clients. Now the answer is no. If you are onshore, you must be living in Victoria at the time of nomination to be eligible for Victorian Skilled Visa nomination. Or if you are outside of Australia, then you can apply for the Victorian state nomination, be it 190 or subclass 491. I am working for a company business based in another state. Can I apply for Victorian nomination? Now, for applying the subclass 190, if you're onshore, if you have claimed earnings from your employment in your registration of interest, your employer must be physically located in Victoria. Excuse me. Onshore applicants for subclass 491 nominating must be living and working in skilled employment in the region Victoria. Now, let's talk about the employers which really have offices in multiple cities. Now, if you are basically having a physical office in Victoria, fulfill your requirement depending you're applying for 190 or a 491. So the head office can be in another state, but you must have a physical office in which you're working in Victoria in order to secure an invite for a 190. If your employer does have office, or if you're looking, the employer has to have their office in the regional area itself. So they should have a physical office address in regional, and that should be the basis for you to secure an invite for a 491. Where can I find out my occupation is considered skilled? Now, the information about your occupation is, I believe, which you would fill in for ABS will give you an answer. But yes, it would possibly give you the closest answer to your nominated occupation, because the role in every organization is called differently. So there are organizations which call a business analyst as a product manager, or basically an analyst, which could be different to what an ICT BA. But really want to make a comparison or find out whether the role which you are working in is at the skill level 1, 2, or 3, you can refer to the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, or ANSCO website, and you will get an answer to that question. Whether the skill level that you work at is at level 1, is it at level 2, 3, 4, or 5. That will basically give you an answer how you can put through your application. Thank you, everyone. I wish everyone all the very best. Thanks.